I understand about desire in so many aspects of my life. I can tell you that I know what my desire is and that the qualities of my life are congruent with that. In my relationship, in my home, my friends, and yet in my work, in the job that I do, it's so incongruent. And I call it toxic. Where I work is a toxic place. So when I try to apply the same dynamics and the same principles to making a work experience that's more congruent with my values and with who I am, what I come up with is that I don't know what my desire is. I come up with one of two things. The desire is either kind of vague and more qualitative, like, more creativity or more nurturing people, more whole environment. Or I come up with something that I go, that's it. And then in very short time, the energy is diffused and it doesn't feel like, that's really what my passion was, because I can't hook into it. I can't seem to get the passion behind the work desire. I can't find the desire.
We're going to throw some things out to you, and as you hear them, they will resonate with you, and then we'll sort of chew this over together here for just a little bit. We feel from you that the greatest difference and reason for discord in the work environment that is not present in the other environments is you feel a lack of control in the work environment that you do not feel in the other environments so much. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
And you have come forth knowing from a broader non-physical perspective that you are in control of your experience, and so it's just intolerable that you do not have control in that environment. And the more you recognize that you don't have control and the more you push against it, the more disconnected you become. When you say, I can't quite put my finger on exactly what it is that I want, what would you say your overall mood or attitude is relative to the subject of work or employment at all? In other words, if you had the choice, would you work for someone or would you not? Would you be self-employed or would you be employed by another? In other words, what's your feeling about work, basically?
My feeling about work is that it should be what I love to do.
The feeling that we feel from you is, my feeling about work is that it's something that is work as it is defined now and work as you are living. It is something that is necessary but not something that is wanted.
Absolutely.
And so you just can't get there from there. Now many would say, well, I don't like it, so I'll just quit. But then the fact that it was necessary puts them in a sort of tailspin. And so you feel trapped by your own desire. I have developed this lifestyle and I need this employment and I need the steadiness of it, but I'm not happy in the structure of it, and so you feel trapped. And that's the worst part of all, isn't it? That feeling of loss of control. Where in reality there is no loss of control. You have a lot of control, a lot more than you've let yourself experience. Here's what we would do if we were standing in your physical shoes. Begin making statements because they will make you feel better. Not because they will change anything instantly, but because they will make you feel better, and in feeling better, things will then be allowed by you to change. Statements like, hey, I made the decision to be here. I'm in control. I'm here because I'm choosing to be here. I'm the one that's saying yes. Nobody's holding me. I'm not being held at gunpoint. I'm not chained to my desk or to my work environment. I'm here because I'm choosing to be here. And while there are other choices that might feel better, and certainly other choices that I will make, these are the choices that I'm making right now, and they're not all that bad of choices. This place is serving me in this way and in this way and in this way, and it's steady work. The paychecks come regularly. It's something that's there for me. It was there when I needed it, because it feels much better to look for the positive aspects, even if it feels like a stretch to find them, than it does to call it a toxic environment. In other words, when you say this is a toxic environment, think what you're saying. I've chosen a toxic environment for myself. In other words, how self-destructive is that?
The most immediate thing on my mind is that one thing I'm clear about is that I don't want to work in this place. And I know...
What are the 5 biggest reasons that you don't want to be in that place?
The values that corporation serves are really predicated and founded on greed. And without any judgment, maybe greed's the wrong word, they don't understand the concept of enough. and at the expense of
Well, what is enough? Why are you wanting to limit anyone when the universe will yield endlessly? Why should they listen to you and want less?
They shouldn't. They don't have to. I see my job is to stand between the mechanism in that corporation that grinds people up and my staff, and be as much the person who can bring some levity and meaning to their work experience.
In what ways does it grind people up?
A person's contribution and value isn't measured if, as a whole, the corporation isn't doing well. It's not that they're doing well; they do very well, but then it's more and more and more and more, without that having meaning to the people that are doing the work.
The reason that we ask that specific question is because understanding energy flowing as we do, sometimes we will see a corporation that has been in business for a number of years and they have quite a bit of momentum going. And sometimes they have a very far-reaching visionary at the helm that is anticipating future evolution and development, and a whole structure of people that are filling in the ranks and assisting along the way. And often the people who are part of the process will feel as if they are being ground up, or as if they are being used up, or as if they are being taken advantage of. And yet there is another way of looking at this. If you understand that that visionary, that corporation, that board, whatever the body is that's making those far-reaching decisions, they are actually petitioning the universe for more, summoning energy through, and actually giving everyone who's part of the process an opportunity to have life force flowing through them toward that endeavor that has been set out there. We agree with you that it is ever so much more satisfying for you to identify something that you want and you to be purely in alignment with what you want, so that the universe is answering you specifically. Mm-hmm. But we also would put it into the words that Jerry has used for many years when he would say to Esther, or to anyone, if you do not have goals of your own, then you often become part of someone else's goals. And we say, and that's not such a bad thing. In other words, there is a cooperation that happens in this energy that is moving through. So let's just begin with the premise that it is not inappropriate for a corporation to have goals. You agree with that?
I agree with that.
And it is not inappropriate for people at all kinds of different stages of their own development to sometimes dovetail, to offer their energy toward the goal of the corporation, and that everyone is free to participate there or not. And what we're doing here is to try to give you a sense of ease, that there is no entrapment or no assertion that is taking place here, that any individual can set forth a new intent and find themselves happily still there or happier someplace else. Does that give you any sense of ease? We don't feel much movement. You're sort of rigid in your determination. You have found some sort of satisfaction in demonizing them that is not serving you. Even if they are demons, it doesn't serve you. So we ask for 5 things. You gave us 1. What are the other 4? 5 things that make this a toxic place to be.
One of the prevailing mechanisms to motivate people is to pit one department against another, and so that it fosters this atmosphere of acrimony and contention.
Now, what do you mean by pitting them against one another? In what way?
That one department's production, if they are interdependent departments, they will blame or diminish another department's production or work product, because then it's all about excuses and not about cooperation.
Is one person doing this, or 10 people? Is it the attitude of the corporation? Who is doing this? Has it just become the way that it is? Was there a bulletin set out that said, these are the guidelines for this corporation? We're based on greed, and we're going to demand as much from you as we possibly can, and we'll give you no reward in the process. We'll just get bigger and better, and you'll just be nameless no ones. And in order to make it happen faster, we're going to pit you against one another. in order to get the most production from you? Or is it a sociological evolving that has to do with every individual involved in it? It's sort of like people blaming society. Well, that's the way society is, or blaming government, when all of these larger bodies are just made up of the individual vibrations who are all part and parcel of it. You're following us?
I do hear what you're saying, and it isn't my intent to demonize the work culture. I realize that it is not the only corporation in America that is founded on some of the values and dynamics that it has, and it's pretty old school. It's been around a long time.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying is that my despair is in not being able to sort out for myself what my wanting is, what is my desire.
Well, let us tell you why. You see, the reason that we've been probing here a little bit is because your feelings are very strong about this. And it's not easy to be in an environment where there are so many people with strong feelings and not just through osmosis begin picking up on those strong feelings. In other words, you all talk about it around the water cooler, and every chance you get, there's a lot of conversation that goes on about the inappropriateness of them as you are trying to justify where you stand, and all of that holds you in a vibration that makes you not have vibrational access even to the ideas of that which you are wanting. As you observe where you are and talk about it with others and feel about it and push against it, which is all pretty natural thing to do under these intense circumstances, it causes you to set up a vibrational pattern that even though you'd rather be over there or have thoughts about over there, you don't have access to them because this is so predominantly a part of your vibration. And the only way that you can reach for those thoughts, which begins to open doors that lead you into a much more satisfying environment, is by deliberately reaching for a better feeling thought and a better feeling thought and a better feeling thought and a better feeling thought. You build your own bridges to that better feeling place. Corporations like the one that you are describing could not exist if there were not hundreds of thousands of compliant participants. They could not become the machines that they are if there were not people that were, in other words, so let's say that you and 20 of your favorite co-workers say, we've had it with this toxic environment, we're jumping ship. And you jump to another place. You would naturally jump right into an environment like the one you left because that's the only thing you would have vibrational access to. Unless you stay where you are and look for reasons to feel good and regain your sense of autonomy and self-direction, and then the universe could yield to you easily something ever so much more pleasing. Let's begin it here. Let's reach for some statements that move the energy within you, that leave you in a better and better and better feeling place. Are you appreciative of the dollars that come to you? And do they come steadily, or do they keep you waiting?
No, they come regularly.
They come regularly. And that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
In other words, as far as that part of it goes, you do have a sense of stability. And you do appreciate this corporation that's not going bankrupt. They're not calling the bank every day to see if they can meet payroll. You never worry if your paycheck's going to bounce. It's never let you down in that way. In other words, it's a dependable corporation, and you appreciate that. We're just trying to milk it a little further. We can feel you sort of, you're really not wanting to feel appreciation toward them, and we can feel that. But that's something that you can't deny. In other words, they're stable. They give you your money, your hard-earned money, and that part of your life is stable. While there are corporations closing their doors every day, putting 20 or 30,000 people on the street without work, isn't it nice that this corporation is not doing that to you?
To me, they have. I just didn't get cut. But they do. 10% of their workforce, people I knew. But you're right, not me. Not me.
There's something there in that vibration, isn't it? People I knew, people I loved, just cut out of that. In other words, that's a little sore spot, isn't it?
Yes, I had to let people go. People that I had to let go because it wasn't about core competencies or work product or anything about their performance.
Well, now let's talk about this just for a little bit, because isn't this an interesting thing? You hate being there, and you feel bad about freeing people from this place?
Thank you for that perspective. It did cross my mind once that they were free.